Let's do it.
All right, let's go. Let's go freestyle.
What's up, man?
Community. Welcome. So, what I want to do is let's get an introduction, man. You want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. My name's Aaron Harrison. Been in the industry of developing people for a long time. Very excited about our movement, what we're doing here with EPI and the Hip Doctor. And my passion is really helping to connect the mind with the body. I can talk physical all day, but really up to you, Keith. I'm going to focus more on the mind. I'm going to help to kind of align things, both physically and spiritually and mentally, really, because I think if you can control the way that your thought process works and what you focus on, you can be teachable and coaching.
I love it, man. What's your history? What's your background?
So, played professional sports for 2 years before suffering a real bad knee injury. I think it was the greatest thing that ever happened. I always say that story because I think the man that I've become because of it has really resulted in the growth and development of this business. And so bringing in that expertise of knowing what it takes to be a professional athlete, and also being a father, seeing my 2 young boys growing up and seeing their development, and also seeing their eyes as they look at me, being able to demonstrate has been very important to me. Being a father that can demonstrate things and show them what it looks like is huge. And so for children, I think that's a big piece of our business, is that we actually can walk the walk and talk the talk. So now taking my professional experience and now putting it into the hands of the youth so that they can grow even more.
I love it, man. Take it to the next level, right?
Yeah, man.
So I love that Aaron's that faith-based. I'm that physical-based. I also believe in faith, but that physical base is where I thrive. That science side of things, figuring things out, tinkering, and getting whatever it is to the next level, getting it to perform better, getting it to recover faster. And so my background is, I went to school for sports medicine. I was a full-time athlete my entire life, to the point where I didn't even have a job growing up. It was sports. If I was outside, I was making up a game. I like playing outside the rules. I like making up my own rules. I like knowing there is no rules. So if you're around, it's a lot of uncertainty.
Oh, yeah.
And it can appear like chaos, but everything's a playground, especially and to have a body that can perform in an area that is undetermined or unsettled, I think is huge. And that's really what got me to where I am today. Playing sports in college, I took a lot of beatings. I didn't really take care of my body. I noticed that now that showed up as a regret. And getting into that sports medicine side, I figured out how the body can perform. I found out what was possible. Mm-hmm. And then I quickly found out that I didn't tap into any of that. It was a lot of imagining what could happen, but not knowing what could happen. And it was the difference between desire and belief. I wanted to be better. Mm-hmm. I didn't believe fully that I could be better. Mm-hmm. And so there was a gap there. And so as my career was brought to a halt with, again, the greatest thing that never happened, an injury that put me on my path, I was able to see what was missing. And there was definitely a piece that was missing between the recovering athlete and how not only how quickly they can get back, but what do they come back as. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I could allow them to come back to a sport that they love with an even greater understanding and ability, three-dimensional, body, mind, and soul, than they had when they left. And that quickly became something that people wanted, and I saw value in it, and then a business came to me. Mm-hmm. And being entrepreneurial and looking to make my own rules, business is the best place to do it. And so out of that came a company, and for the past 20 years, I've been delivering a service that allows athletes to believe again, allows athletes to be in an environment where they can maximize their genetic potential. And that was something I was always seeking myself. So as I'm going through the process with athletes and learning about them, I'm also learning from them. And so now we're in a position where we've all come together and started this company called Epicenter, and that's a moment where everybody can come together at whatever stage they're on and feel the influence of being a rock and a ripple. Understanding that everybody has their own phase of learning, their own phase of life. A lot of it's seasonal, and that's what gets me excited, and that's what I'm really focused on now, is allowing those to see, not just young athletes, but older athletes, recreational athletes, corporate level, anyone that's blinking, breathing, eating, sleeping, whatever it is, that they can always perform at a higher level. They can dig deeper, they can get closer to their core, and that gets me out of bed every day.
That's awesome. Good stuff.
And I'm Keith Deo.
Yeah. And that's my story.
Oh, my bad.
So I'm Danny Cahill, the Hip Doctor, as Aaron calls me. And my background is in baseball and softball development. I am a transformational coach, is what they call it, which compared to a transactional coach, the difference would be I work the athlete from the inside out. I build a relationship with them. I get to know them, what they do on and off the field. I get to know their families, and we go all in together. And we create a process that is going to last for a long, long time, and I hope to be a part of that process with them. Transactional coach would be someone who has a player in front of him or her for a year or two, and then they go on to something else, and there's never really a relationship formed. So that's the difference. My history, I grew up in Arizona playing at a very high level in high school. Baseball, typical all-state, all-star and all that kind of stuff. And I was going on to play at the University of Arizona for Jerry Kindle. Nobody plays for Jerry Kindle as a freshman. And so I went to Pima Community College first. Plan was to go there for 2 years, then go on to U of A, then go on to the major leagues. And some poor decisions on my part derailed that whole thing. So I think that everything works out for a reason, and thank God baseball didn't work out for me, and it led me here to Connecticut where I met my wife, and I've been married for 25 years now, and 2 beautiful kids. I've met these guys. I think everything is coming together exactly the way it's supposed to at the right time, because during my journey as far as coaching goes, I've been coaching now for about 20 years, I have realized that without the kids and the athletes being able to move properly, they're never going to be able to do exactly what they need to do to perform at a high level. And so that's why I've decided to partner up with these guys and deliver my hitting knowledge and baseball and softball development knowledge with the strength and conditioning side. And I think we're all on the same page there, and we just want to help kids get better and realize their potential, maximize the potential that's been given to them. So that's why I'm here.
I love it. And so the vision of EPI is we provide athletes and any person that is going to move their body in a coordinated way is an athlete, correct?
Absolutely.
So we provide athletes with solution-rich environments so that they can realize what their actual, how to maximize their genetic potential, what that actually is, what exists there. And so when we think about EPI baseball and the processes that we're going to go through, we know that there's going to be people at different stages, and they're going to be at that EPI, what EPI stands for, is they're going to be at that evolution stage. They're going to be at the point where they're sponges. They want as much information as they can get, but they're not quite ready to put it into full action one-on-one or in a small group setting or a team setting with a coach. They want all the information though. And so they're really in that evolutionary stage, and that's why we have that availability. We have those videos that we can send them, we can get feedback, they can work with us, just not one-on-one, just not in person yet, or on location. And then there's people that are ready to perform, and they've gone through the evolutionary stage. They're ready to take that, use the P and EPI and perform, really get it down, where they're getting real-time feedback. They're then getting into a place where they have physical, actual homework that they're sending back to a coach, which is awesome, where you can take a look at that. We're going to leverage technology as much as possible, because that's how we can deliver the biggest influence. And then that's where the I comes in. There's going to be coaches, there's going to be mentors, there's going to be parents and aspiring coaches that have gone through a process as an athlete, whether it's with us or another organization, and they're ready to be an influencer. There's somebody that really wants to get into it and start giving feedback, start giving back to the game that has given so much to them, and that's where that I comes up in EPI. And so when we started this business just over 18 months ago,
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, it was the seed was planted a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we finally got to doing it, and we were focused on the athlete, the athlete in general, and athletic motion and athletic movement. And what Aaron did is he met Coach and he said, hey, listen, is there a way that we can apply our understanding of the body and what's possible and apply that to baseball specifically? And we hadn't really gotten into any sports-specific training, but we knew that it's necessary. There's an outlet here that we want to connect the dot. We want to maximize the ability to transform and transfer. And so that's why we're here today. And I want you to share, especially you guys, and the conversations that you had. How did this all happen?
Right.
What was it that led you to believe that this can be done at such a level?
Well, Keith, that's a great question. One of the things that I'm always looking for is the next level. And not only for me personally, but now for my children, because I know that now that's my biggest responsibility. I'm always growing and developing myself, and now I want to leave that behind with my child. And so when my oldest son decided that baseball was going to be his sport, I told him, I said, you know, we're gonna have a lot of fun with this, and if you really are serious about doing it, then I'm going to build it. I'm going to put you in the right position to have all of the resources that you need so that you can have fun learning the sport. I never went to the next level with baseball. I loved baseball, was very good at baseball, but my game was football. And so I didn't have a lot of knowledge on how to teach baseball. I could definitely get out in the field and play. And so I had a good friend of mine who had already started that process with his son, who introduced me to Coach Cahill. And from the first day I met him, I saw the way that he interacted with the kids. And that was important to me because I already work with youth. I already see the importance of a coach in youth's life, whether it be from the sport or from just life in general, helping them to see what's next in their life and giving them some perspective and, you know, leaving behind that message. And so when I saw that, I was very excited because I knew that my son was in some good hands. He was going to get not only the knowledge of the game and be able to, you know, critique his skill and help him to perform at a better level, but he was going to be in the right environment, you know, that nutrient-rich environment that we all aspire to be in, right? We want to be in a growth environment. And so when I saw Danny talking with the kids and working with the kids, I was so excited I could just sit back on the bleachers and watch with the other parents. You know, that's been something I always wanted to do, but never really felt comfortable. And I know many of you may feel the same way as you're starting to look at your child and say, well, I just want to watch my kid play games. You know, I just want to watch my kid play sports. And I haven't been really satisfied with the coach's ability to interact with my child or get the best out of my child. And I had that. And so from there, that seed started to kind of germinate. And I knew what we were building, both Keith and I, with Epicenter. And I said, you know what? What if? What if this can be the next thing for not only the game of baseball, but for these youth kids? And because of my child's decision to make baseball his sport, other kids are going to benefit from it. And that's what I'm all about. It's creating community. And so I'm so excited to have Coach Cahill part of our program because I know what he delivers. I know what he means in regards to why he coaches. And he's not all about winning. You know, winning is a result, obviously, of excellence. However, the kid developing and the youth learning about how to leverage a sport is really his main focus. And so I'm going to transition over to having him share a little bit about why this is really big for him and his vision, because I'm excited just like Keith is excited. I know Danny is as well. And so that's what really led me into saying, hey, Danny, let's partner up and let's make baseball something that EPI offers.
Thank you. I appreciate all those kind words too.
You're welcome, man.
I'll tell you a little bit about where that comes from. So I am a John Wooden disciple. Now, of course,
Yes.
he's a basketball coach,
Yeah.
but I took everything that he taught, whether, you know, and I went under him as far as reading books, watching videos, and I'm pretty much a YouTube disciple for a lot of things.
Yeah.
I watch a sermon every day on, you know, so I get stronger and stronger in my Christianity every day. I watch baseball sermons, I watch baseball videos, basketball videos, anything that helps me be a better father, a better husband, better coach, mentor. That's what I'm in. And that's what I've been doing for the last 12 years, okay? Pretty much every day. You can count on an hour in my studies for Christianity, an hour in my studies for baseball, and then the rest of my time is spent with my family, kids, you know, being a better husband and father. So anyways, with regards to John Wooden and what he taught me about was to focus on the process and how the process is so much more important than the outcome. And the outcome will always end up the way that it's supposed to end up if you do everything you're supposed to do, right? And the focus for UCLA and John Wooden's teams, and if you're not familiar with John Wooden, they won 10 titles in a row, you know, unheard of winning streak, that sort of thing. So it's not like they didn't win because he wasn't focused on winning.
Yeah.
He actually is the winningest coach probably of all time in any sport, most dominant. But the point is that he wasn't focused on that solely. Kids would come in, he was very meticulous about how they tied their shoes, where their shirts tucked in, they had to be clean shaven, the rules were strict, but in a loving way. He didn't swear, he didn't raise his voice, he was more of a relationship type of coach, and that's what I want to always be, and that's what I've always tried to be. My coaching style has always been, don't raise your voice, don't swear, don't put these kids down, always be positive, encouraging, you know, that sort of thing. And that's, in some cases, you know, you need to get on a kid. I understand all of that. And but for the most part, it's just keep it calm, don't over exaggerate things, don't get too excited, just kind of go through the process, focus on the details, focus on the little things, and focus mostly on the person in front of you instead of what he can do for you on the field,
Mhm.
right? And so I took that I started coaching Little League, you know, my son was 8. We went all the way through the process, you know, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. When the kids, I was coaching the All-Star team, and when they got to be 12 years old, this group of kids wanted to stay together, you know, and they wanted to go play better competition. And we had tried a lot of the different travel programs around the state, stuff like that, and saw what everybody was doing. And the kids basically said, Coach, they can't teach us anything that you can't. So we want to stay together, and we want you to be our coach. So this was a player-led movement, basically. At 12 years old, they wanted to stay together. And so that's what we did, and that's how the CT cadets got started. And we won our first year, you know, 13 years old. We won our championship, and, you know, everybody was hitting home runs, and nobody could figure out why, because they're only 13, and they were just getting on the big field for the first time. Why is the ball going over the fence? And so then I started to share my story about how I learned the swing, which is a fascinating story, really. I'll keep it short. But I met a guy through social media and who studied Ted Williams' swing, wrote a whole entire letter about Ted Williams' swing, and mailed it to Ted Williams and said, I think I understand your swing as well as anybody.
Wow.
Ted Williams actually read this letter. Ted Williams actually gave this letter to his son, John Henry Williams, and said, if you ever decide to make a run to the major leagues, this is the guy you're going to want to call. Now, Ted Williams was getting along in age. He was getting sick. He wasn't really able to coach his son the way that he wanted to as he was getting older, that sort of thing. So anyways, John Henry Williams, after Ted Williams passed, decided to go ahead and make that run. He was in his mid-20s. He didn't play in college, but he's Ted Williams' son, so somebody gave him a shot. He's in the minor leagues, he's struggling, he's not doing very well. He reads the letter from this guy. His name's Coach Huber. He calls him, invites him down to the Florida estate, Ted Williams estate. Coach Huber works with him for a couple months, gets him up to about 15 home runs in one batting practice session, and the guy had never hit a home run on a big field before.
Wow, that's cool.
He got his average all the way up to about 290 that year, and he was on his way, teaching him his own father's swing, right?
Wow.
So this guy, you know, and then the story with John Henry Williams is kind of sad. You know, he actually got cancer, and he ended up not being able to pursue the dream and continue on. But Coach Huber actually shared with me all of the information that he had learned, not only from Ted Williams' son, but while he was in Florida, he got to meet a lot of the folks that Ted Williams played with, coached with, and just so you can imagine the wealth of information that was fed to me. And all I did was take that information and feed it to the kids. And it worked, you know? When I was a kid, I was taught to swing a certain way, which was down through the ball, create backspin, all that kind of stuff. And then I realized when I met Coach Huber that was all wrong, that's not what Ted Williams taught. And once I started teaching it the right way around here, we took off. And so as time went on, I just developed a reputation for somebody who knew hitting. And I came up with the name Hit Doctor because basically the process is, you know, we assess the situation. We basically have a physical.
Yep,
see
diagnose.
what's going on, diagnose any kind of issues,
Yeah.
right? Prescribe a treatment plan, you know, and then we have regular checkups to make sure everything is going the way that it's supposed to, and we make sure you stay healthy as a hitter throughout your entire career. So that's a little long-winded, but hopefully you get the point of where I'm from, what I've learned, what I continue to learn, and it's just all about process first, go through life with the kids, become a relationship first coach. And I know that's what these guys are all about as well, and that's the reason why I think this is going to be a match made in heaven.
Yeah, I think that's really where we're going to excel. Is we have a high cost of entry. We have a high cost of entry, and that to most is essential if there's going to be a deep-rooted relationship. Because when you can open the door to everyone, and they don't see any incentive to stay or to even engage, because what they're doing is not being rewarded anywhere else, because everyone gets a trophy these days. And so I struggled with that for a long time.
I still do.
Yeah. And as a coach and as a trainer, I struggled because I knew there were people that were on that court or on that field that, even though they may appear to be equal, they're not. And what they're doing off the court is nowhere near what the other person was not doing, because they were putting in the work, they were evolving, they were getting better. And so that trophy, I was fighting it and I was resisting it. And I know that even our understanding of weight training or building up somebody and how to leverage resistance, we looked at resistance as a necessary thing if you want to get bigger. And our understanding has evolved even in the past 3 to 6 months.
Oh yeah.
We used to say, find the resistance and then push against it because you'll get bigger. And now our understanding is, find the path of least resistance and work really hard at it. Right? Find the flow, allow that to flow through you, and the reward will always show up if the process is taken care of. And we were born out of egotistical, result-oriented things that drove us. We were driven by the thing.
Right.
And that's an extrinsic drive, or that is, if we can take that into account as we allow people to be influenced and attracted to what we do, we can create a place where there's a high cost of entry. And that cost of entry is at most for us, and it's losing losing some of its meaning, I think, out there, is a handshake. And looking somebody in the eye and say, is this for you? Are you ready to do this? That's a high cost of entry, because it may not be as common now as it used to be. So we're taking it back a little bit old school. When you shake a hand with a parent, when you can shake a hand and look an athlete straight in the eye, which eye contact may be rare these days.
Sure
So
is.
look an athlete in the eye and say, are you ready for this? Are you ready to find out how real your dreams can become and will become?
There's a sacrifice involved.
And I wouldn't even look at it like that.
That's it.
I mean, let's unpack that for a little bit, right? Sacrifice is a word that we don't really use around here. It's recognizing an opportunity and making a decision to engage. Now, where most would see that as a sacrifice is because they're looking at it from a lack or a loss, or I don't get to do this because I'm choosing this. No, what we're doing is you're making a decisive choice to engage in a process that's going to give you the opportunity to do something that this thing over here, if I had done this consistently, wouldn't.
Yeah, like
And
that.
so where most people would say, oh, I'm sacrificing this. No, actually, this wasn't good for you in the first place. I'm in a position to get the right information and to be influenced by an even greater group of people.
Right.
So this no longer looks like a sacrifice.
I like it. I like it.
And so we're not sacrificing anything. What we're doing is we're getting rid of this resistance that everyone seeks, and we're allowing in the ease and the freedom to express ourselves on every, and this is where I get goosebumps, the freedom to express, the freedom to be understood and understand at the same time is huge. And the trust factor comes in when I know that a family can trust me with their youth athlete or their desired process. They can trust me and the system that we've created so that they'll have the best opportunity, politics aside, and it's not going to be a sacrifice. It's not going to be a struggle getting their child out of bed in the morning to get to a practice. And it's not going to be a car ride from hell with mom or dad on the way home because they don't understand what you're going through or what the coach is looking to deliver. And there's this block. We want this to be all one. And there's a Jeremy Boone shared with me an expression in a movement called Building a House of Champions. And if we're not all involved, then we will not evolve. It's looked at as you're getting this, you're getting that, this is your thing, this is our thing. There's no greater gift, before I allow you to elaborate on that, there's no greater gift, I believe, than seeing your child happily pursue something.
Right.
Happily pursue something. Seeing your child pursue something, even in the face of fear, even in the face of the unknown, even in the face of pain, to not throw in the towel and give up. To see your child do something that you, even if you had the opportunity that we say, oh, if I only had, and we live through our regrets, to see your child do something that you wouldn't have been able to do. You wouldn't even be willing to do it. You talk like you would have been. But to see your child do that, and do it well, with a smile on their face, and want to do it when nobody's asking them to, and there's no greater gift as a child to see their parent enjoying the process with them, and not having to overcoach the situation, because they trust that the coach is doing all that they can for their child in the best interest, allowing their child to show up even greater than they as a parent would have ever been, and they can sit back and, like you said, be a parent. And that's winning.
Yep.
That's winning. There's no longer competition out there. It becomes a domination, and that's winning. Winning as a family, winning as a is no longer transactional. It's transformational. And knowing that within that there has to be a great deal of faith.
Yep.
And if I've learned anything about faith, it's been from Aaron Hairston, and knowing that this is faith-based. There's a great deal here that's faith-based, because what your perception of reality is only based on whatever environment you've been exposed to.
Right.
Without faith, a lot of these things, we wouldn't be sitting on chairs right now. A baseball wouldn't be in your hand. These lights wouldn't be on. And so when you bring the faith concept in and tie it into all the physical and the action demands, I mean, what isn't possible?
Right. When we talk about the hose, and there's a lot of thoughts that came about when you were speaking.
We talk about the hose.
We talk about the hose. HOSE.
Yeah.
And we talk about the flow. And what I found in this journey is that we want to be free flowing. We want to eliminate distractions. We want to allow the process of becoming to be the main priority, because I truly believe that God put everything in us that we need, just like that walnut, right? You know, to create that tree, it's already there. Everything it needs, all the information is there. Now it's time for it to grow. And so as athletes, and I think we're all athletes, anyone that's moving around and using their body in a form that has been intended to move is an athlete, right? Being athletic. You may think athletes got to be on fields and courts and things like that, but what we feel is that there's a process of an athlete in all of us as we come into alignment. And so as Keith talks about faith and bringing out that trueness of the individual, we call what we do our ministry, right? As we sit there and talk to kids, or we talk to adults, or we talk to people in the audience, what we're doing is we're allowing it to flow through us. And so if I bring back that analogy of a hose, now the water is going to flow. Now at the end of that hose, there may be some sort of device that directions the water, right? You may have a shower or a direct stream or whatever it is, but you have full control of that flow. Now what we want to intend on doing is we want to help everybody realize that that's what we are, right? We are a device of free flowing if we allow it to be. And so if we understand our being and we understand who we are inside, we know that we come from abundance and prosperity, right? We don't come from lack and limit. We adopt those things because of past experiences and, like Keith said before, expectations of others. And so what we want to do is we want to break down those barriers for the people to realize that they have it in them already. And so these youth athletes may have a desire to play the sport. They're like, yeah, I want to play this game. And they don't realize where that's deriving from. And what our job is, and I'm sure Coach would agree, it's from that inner root of their being that's saying, hey, this is what we want to do. Go figure out how to do it and surround yourself by people that believe in you doing it. And so as I bring faith and I bring God into the middle of everything that we do, it's that being and becoming that is so exciting. And as you watch a child develop, especially as a parent, you know, all my life I never thought I was going to be able to have children. I don't know what came up with that idea, but I actually thought it was cheating, to be honest with you. And I'm not saying that to be arrogant. I said that because I'm listening to everything, and I figured if I can give someone a beginning based on where I'm at right now, I'm going to give them so much more than what their peers are going to have. And so I aligned that and I said, holy smokes. I said, I think every parent thinks that way, if they're able to really understand who they are. So what we are doing is we're allowing this vehicle, right? This is all this is. EPI is a vehicle that has unlimited seating, has amazing drivers, and a great GPS system for those who want to go to the next level. And so what we want to do is we want to allow people to understand that the next level is already inside of them if they're willing to do the work. If they're willing not to take the elevator. If they're willing to take the stairs along the way and know that each step is going to teach them a lesson about themselves that was already there but has now come into translation. And then that's where we come into our faith base and saying, you know what, we don't need to see anything. All we need to do is feel it and understand it and know that we're in the right position so that we can become the best version of ourselves. And so one of the things that I love about Danny Cahill is that he does put Christ in the middle of everything he does. He puts that faith-based ministry model into his baseball, which is what I saw on the field with him with those kids. It was so special. And he had 10-year-olds with 18-year-olds. And they were all working together. They were shagging balls together. They were talking to each other. The mentorship that was happening was stemming from the top, which was so amazing. And so, Coach, I want to ask you about that. You know, as far as your faith and how you feel that this is your ministry and where we're going with this. Because we know that because of what we're doing, it's going to allow us to grow a lot more, but also, you know, maybe invite some distractions along the way.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. There's nothing I like talking about more than Jesus.
Yeah.
So if I can just rewind a little bit to what I was saying before when we started the cadets with that 12-year-old group of kids, when I agreed to do that, I told them that we're going to do something a little bit different though, and we're going to do this as a youth ministry. And we're going to start this club as a way to basically use baseball to facilitate the word, you know, get kids together, have some Bible studies, you know, nothing mandatory. I didn't want anybody to be afraid, you know, to come around and think that I was going to use Bibles for bases and stuff like that. And,
That's actually a movement.
so
I got started, called some churches up.
yeah, and we had some, you know, you have some detractors, which is, you know, I think we got called the Holy Roly Club at one time, you know, and families were not interested in being with us and stuff like that, which is actually good because Christ says that that's a good thing. You know, when you're getting some sort of persecution, even a little one like that, a little bit like that in His name, then that's a
Well,
positive.
contrast is a gift.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a Bible study now that we are doing called Sheepdog Bible Study. If you're not familiar with the story of the sheepdog, basically there's 3 types of people in the world, right? There's the sheep, who are the naive, can't defend themselves, unknowing, you know, very easily preyed upon, that sort of thing. Then there's the wolf, who has all the attributes of a killer, strong, smart, can overcome the sheep pretty easily, manipulate them, that sort of thing. But then there's the sheepdog, who has all the same attributes as the wolf, but he uses them for good. And he protects the sheep. So he's as strong as the wolf, if not stronger. He's smarter than the wolf. He can defend the sheep along with himself. And that's the reason why I call it Sheepdog, the Bible study, because I'm trying to help young men understand that, number one, there is no age for leadership.
Yep.
I want to develop leaders, serving leaders, kids that can go out there and protect people that can't protect themselves, but also, and I don't mean physically all the time either, I'm just talking about mentally. There's a lot of chaos out there in the world today. There's a lot of information being disseminated through schools, and then there's just a lot of misinterpretation. Yeah. And so I want these kids to be armed with the truth.
Yeah.
And I think that the only truth there is comes from the Bible. And we've been talking about faith. Your faith can be really, really strong, right? But who your faith is put in is what matters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, of course, Jesus Christ is who my faith is with. And so I'm good, right? But when you take it down a notch and you talk about putting faith in people, coaches, stuff like that, you want to make sure you're putting your faith in somebody who can deliver and can actually provide you with the correct information and arm you with the information and the training necessary to go out there and perform, right? And if I can do one thing for one kid and help him find Christ, find himself, find the leader in him, and that turns into, you know, going home and helping his parents come to the same faith, you know, because if I have learned one thing over the past decade, nobody has ever yelled at me for inviting their son to a Bible study. Nobody has ever said, you should not do that. We pray before the games. We invite other teams to come pray with us on occasion. We try to let everybody know. I have a cross, if you can't see it, on part of my logo. You know, it's right there in your face all the time, wherever we go. I try to talk to the parents about how they should behave on the sidelines during games. I want to be different than all the other programs, and I want my kids to act different. I want them to encourage the other kids, all while trying to win and trying to beat them. You know, sort of like, if anybody knows who Tim Tebow is, he does not lack in emotion or aggressiveness on the football field or wherever he is in life, right? and he's as a big Christian as anybody can be, I guess. So it is different, and it's a foundation that I can stand on and help these other kids stand on, and I can deliver truth to them from Scripture, from a strong foundation that I know is right, and so I don't ever have to second guess myself with regards to teaching life through the Bible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's authentic intentionality.
That's right. And so it's all about, and I take that into every area of my coaching. It's the reason why I spend so much time learning how to swing a baseball bat, or how to field a baseball, or how to throw a baseball, or how to play as a team, all that kind of stuff, because I don't know it all. And I want to continue to learn and go through all of this with the players. I'm not a big fan of always having to show everybody who's in charge and who knows the most. You know what I mean? That's never been my style as a coach. I talk a lot when we're at practice. When we go to the games, the kids play. It's their game, right? I've never called a pitch and during a game, which sounds crazy because these kids are young, but they can figure it out.
They know.
If somebody throws 15 curveballs in a row, I'm going to be like, hey, you know what? Let's try this.
Let's take it back.
Right. But for the most part, we show up, they play. It's their game. I try to stay in the background, and that's another part of what I've done throughout the past 12 years or so, 15 years, is I've always tried to stay in the background. One, out of respect for the other coaches in the area, that sort of thing. Two, because it's about the player, not me. This partnership and this business, Epicenter, everything that we're doing is going to be a little bit more out there. Like, here we are, come train with us.
Let's
type of
go,
thing.
right.
And that is, I'm ready for that step. But you know what? Purposely, I waited over a decade till I knew I was ready, because I didn't want to just go out there and start delivering information and then have to change it and I know now a lot more than I did a decade ago, and I'm ready to go out there and really start to bring these kids to another level and train at the highest levels. I talk to professional athletes all the time. I talk to professional coaches all the time at the major league level. They're helping me, I'm helping them. I was on the phone the other day with a Seattle Mariners hitting coach, and my wife was in the car with me, on a ton of speakers, and then we talked for about 20 minutes, and then we hung up, and she's like, I can't believe you were just talking to a major league hitting instructor. Why not?
Why not?
And I said, and she said, and you didn't even it sounded like he learned from you just as much as you learned from him. And I was like, yeah, you didn't know that was the level I was
That's
at.
how it works.
Yeah.
You know who I was?
Anyways, yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
it's I'm ready to go to that elite level, and I'm ready to have people in front of me and share this information. I want to help fathers who want to coach their sons. That's a big part of it for me. Especially today in America, where the father's not in the home, and a lot of kids are going around without a father, and they look to a coach to be that father figure, and I take that responsibility on, and I am willing to be a role model, and I am willing to be a mentor, and I want to be. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to see what a good husband and father looks like, I would like to show you, and I'm not going to back down from that statement or say I don't think I'm better than anybody, but I will show these kids, which is all that really matters.
Right.
You can talk till you're blue in the face.
Right.
If they see something different at home, they're gonna go that way.
Go with that.
They're gonna do what you do. They're not gonna do what you say so much, right? So I've always led by example.